Okay, we're continuing where we left off. We left off speaking about diaper rashes. Bringing up the conversation of diaper rashes has brought out the question of other types of creams and whatnot that one could potentially, or not potentially, please, bring out the examples, one could potentially or not potentially put on Shabbos. And the reason why this is potentially a confusing sugya. Could I play with it?
Yes.
The reason why, it's nice, okay. The reason why this is potentially a confusing sugya is because there are two sugyas that converge every time one wants to discuss if they could put on hand cream. No, we do not get paid by CVS. Or Blistex, thank you, or Blistex. Two sugyas. What are the two sugyas? So sugya number one is what we're talking about, which is refuah. Sugya number two is mimareach. Mimareach means smoothing on Shabbos. Now, so each time, this is the way we're going to break it down, hopefully for simplistic purposes for the day. Every time we're talking about doing something to your body, you always have to ask, is it refuah? Is it refuah? Someone says, what, refuah? What? Putting hand cream on my hands is refuah? So aside from the fact that it's a sifin shulchan aruch within the hilchos of refuah, whether one could put on oils and one not on our hands, we all can understand. If you have chapped hands and you're putting cream on your hands, you're fixing your chapped hands, which is a form of refuah, And therefore, it's a shayla. Refuah, we learned, is asur on Shabbos. Gezira dirabanan, you might come to grind up your wonderful herbs from the backyard. So now, we have to, number one, to discuss what level. Didn't someone say they're bringing in a pestle and a mortar? What happened?
You want? You didn't ask for that.
If I want.
Tomorrow, please bring it in.
He brought in the hand cream. I don't understand. So, but leave home the herbs. So, I don't want to get arrested over here. So, let's go as follows. So we spoke about mimareach. When we said mimareach, we said there's three categories. There's three gedarim. There's daraisa, there's darabanan, and there's mutter. Mutter is going to be water, oil type oils are not mimareach. Why not? Because they're thin, they're loose. Now, how thick of an oil? I'm sure so many people here have heard of Ramosha Feinstein. Yes, end of comment. Have heard of Ramosha's tshuva that discusses soap on Shabbos, hand soap, and he seems to say, or some explain him to have said, that it's an isser of mimareach of Shabbos. And you think, mimareach, what am I smoothing out soap? So there's another way of learning up his tshuva. He says another word over there. He says that it's making bubbles. What exactly that means is difficult. But we will point out, there are machmirim. I'm sure many people have been in people's houses or shuls, and you'll find you go to take some soap. Who in the world ever uses the soap by the sink? I'm not sure. But the first time ever in your life, you decided to use the soap, and it's like water that comes flying on your hand. And it's not because they're cheap. It's because they want to be machmer like Ramosha and make the soap very, very liquidy. I will point out that Rav Elyashiv in the Tshuva and Kovetz Tshuvos writes that the minhag is not like Ramosha on this one, and we could use liquid soaps. But again, there's different types of liquid soaps. You all can understand there's hand soap, and then there's shampoo, and then there's body wash. I think those are three basic things. My body wash is like, okay, thank you. But you understand that there comes a point that it's thick. So category number one is oils and very, very runny, we'll call items, things that pour. That's not Isser Mimarech. Category two are things that don't pour but aren't very thick. For example, let's play with our hand cream over here. Let's play.
If you hold it upside down, does it come out by itself without squeezing it?
I don't know. I'm not a scientist, so I don't want to answer the question. So this would be what they would call, this. So you see, like when we do this, you see it doesn't like hold the shape. Everyone see that test?
Doesn't hold the shape.
It's not holding the shape.
It bounces back.
So it's because it's sticky. But it's not actually, when you take Vaseline and you stick your finger in, it makes an indent and it stays there. So that's thick. This is a shayla. Some would say maybe this is a deraisa, it's thick.
It doesn't hold the shape because it's sticking back up when you put your hand up.
Meaning that's like wax. The example of the Gemara is wax. You take wax and you smear it out. Wax. However, anyone played with wax. Wax is very, very thick. So some would say is a chash deraisa. Most would say it's probably derabanan type. So to take this on Shabbos and to rub it in like this, that's called an isser derabanan. Isser derabanan. Ooh, it's the smelly one. It's the isser. I'm sorry, I have an issue. It's a machlokes. I said if it's thick, it's deraisa. This would probably be somewhere between deraisa and derabanan. No, you could have something comes out of a pump very thick, something out of a pump very thin. Doesn't make a difference. Smearing it in is the isser that we're talking about. But now, so that's the middle level, then there's the top level. That's in Bimarech. So if I want to use this on Shabbos, let's call it derabanan, maybe deraisa. There's another problem. Do you have an isser refuah? Do you have an isser refuah? What's an isser refuah? Isser refuah means you're bettering yourself. Sim shin chav ches, as we're talking about. Now, there's only an isser refuah. This is a heter that we've mentioned many times. If what? If there's an ailment. If you're a bari, if you're healthy, there's no isser refuah. No isser refuah. So for example, my hands, I happen to be a little bit, what should I tell you? I like my hands to be nice and soft. My hands there's no chapped at all. So this would be called a bari. So then, to put on that cream on Shabbos would not have an isser refuah, would have an isser mimareach. Now, why is it relevant? Who cares if it's one isser, if it's two issers? So now this is where we have a wonderful chiddush of the Magen Avraham. The Magen Avraham in Siman Shin Tezayin Sifkatan Chof Dalid says a case that someone spits on the ground and rubs the spit into the ground with his foot. Was he over an isser? And there's multiple pshatim. Sigamar and Shabbos Tav Kuchav Aleph and Beis Amar Rav Yehuda Roik Darsai Lefi Tumai. Only Lefi Tumai that you can actually go. And says Rashi, why? Roik Dars Lefi Tumai. She'ein miskavin. You do Lefi Tumai as you walk. So if you didn't miskavin limma reach ula ashvi gumais. Rashi seems to throw in that there's two potential isers, isurim in English, over here. The Machaber in Sif Yud Aleph says, Lo yishafshef beraglav roik al gabi karka, mishom mashvi gumais. What's mashvi gumais? Mashvi gumais means you're flattening out the ground. It's within the world of chayfer. Avol mutar dars lefituma, she'im iskavin limma reach. So the Machaber seems to bring down both reasons. Says the Magen Avraham, Avol hacha roitze, sheyivla bikarka. Says the Magen Avraham that if it's going to get absorbed into the ground, there's no Isser Mimarech. This Magen Avraham shook the world. I just said that if I take, let's use his case, spit on the ground, and I rub it all the way into the ground, it's mutter. Why is it mutter? I just told you it's potential ashvi gumas, potential mimarech. So there's no ashvi gumas if the ground, let's say, is cement or whatnot, and there's no mimarech if it goes all the way into the ground. Now, why is this relevant? Why are we talking about spitting on the ground and the Magen Avraham? Because comes along many paiskim, Rishon Zalman Baraisham, and says, wait, the iser mimarech can be bettered how? By making the item fully absorbed, disappear, fully absorbed, disappear. Now, there was a reason I put on the cream before. Was anyone paying attention to how much cream I just put on my hands? No. It was one dot. Now, even that one dot, my hands, no, I do not do my nails, chavra. My hands are a little bit shiny. Why are my hands a little bit shiny? Because the oil, the lotion leaves a little bit. Now, is that shine something we have to worry about? Now, I did not put on a normal amount of lotion. A normal person that would put on lotion would put on a lot more. And kimat, all lotions, will leave not just a shine, leave something on your hands. And that's not called nivla. So I just want to quantify. Some paiskim you're going to see, there's a Ber Moshe that says if it's nivla, it's your skin, it's not memerech. But it has to be nivla. You can only use a heter if you do what he says. It has to be nivla, that there's nothing left. Also, there are those who argue, who could think of a chilik between the spit on the ground and the lotion in my hands? A very simple chilik. You don't want the spit in the ground. You just want to get rid of the spit. Here, I want the lotion in my hands. So maybe the Magen Avraham is only being makel. Oh, so that's the machlekes. The machlekes is it a yisaidistic heter, or is it more like one of these Shabbosdik heterim? You're just getting rid of it from the world. So Mimerech won't apply if you're just getting rid of it from the world. So many. One second. So many paiskim argue in applying this Magen Avraham. In Mishnah Berurah, by the way, they quote the Magen Avraham. That's why we could be semich on it. Many argue in applying this Magen Avraham to our world of hand lotions because they say that's just by getting rid of it and therefore it doesn't apply. So according to them, the shayla doesn't begin, and anytime you use lotion, it's going to be aser. If Rishon Zalman, for example, in Shmir Shabbos in Perek Lamed Gimel Haaretz Samach Daled, he says if you take the mishcha, you take the cream, kula nimsa, it's all destroyed, v'nivlas, and absorbed begufa adam in your body, loy mikri mimarech, v'loy aser ela kisheha mishcha. This is the mishcha. This is the cream. Is in nisheres. It relieves over something. V'uroitz lachlik al gabi guf, and you're smoothing it. So Let's put it all together. We have 3 minutes, and now let's take both of our shaylas and see why it's very relevant that we break everything into 2 shaylas. Because, and then we'll end potentially with a beautiful heter. Maybe. So now, if your hands are chapped, is there anything to start with? L'chayr, no. Once your hands are chapped, there's an isra refuah, so leave that case on the side. If your hands are not chapped, and you want to put in cream, why do you want to put in cream if your hands are not chapped? So they don't get chapped. They don't get chapped. You want to keep them that way. It's more of a shemira on your hands. You're going out in the cold. So what would the answer be? To put on a normal amount of cream would be aser. To put on a very, very little bit, enough that mamish gets fully absorbed. And the truth is, it could be, I don't know, it could be that little bit I put on. I'm feeling it. That's because I played with it a lot with my fingers.
Washing hands out with water, you feel disgusting.
Correct. That's because it's water, whatever. It's water something. Is a fancy scientific word. No, again. Of course it's there, but Shailos, what does it mean there? Scientifically, there's something in my skin, on my skin. If I take a microscope, that's not the nekuda. The nekuda in the ground also, you take the roik, of course a microscope would see it. Nekuda is that it's fully absorbed. So again, I'm just pointing out, it has to be one tiny little dot if you want that heter. It would only be l'chayra if your hands are not chapped. Same thing applies with your lips. Happens to be something like ballistics, never gets absorbed. I don't know, you could take the tiniest little bit, always leave something in your lips. Again, but there's a million items, so we're going to use klalim. What we like to end off with is we've spoken about in the past, is something called Michael Briim. Something called that if people use something indiscriminately, like we spoke about, our friend who hobbled to the Rav, and he wanted to use gold bond on Shabbos, so we said since gold bond is an item that is used indiscriminately, whether one has an issue or not, therefore it's like having a bowl of chicken soup. Don't bring that one to home. Tell your wife, you know what your chicken soup is like? It's like gold bond. That's not going to go over so well. So, because you have chicken soup, whether you're sick or not, and therefore it's a mutter in all scenarios, even if you're sick. You're allowed to have chicken soup if you have the flu. What do you mean? But you're bettering yourself. It's not because it doesn't better you. That's also true. But the reason is because it's a Michael Briim. So now, in the time of the Shulchan Aruch, there existed a Metzias, which perhaps we've come back to, that there are people that put on oils, always. Not because their hands were chapped, not because their skin issues. They put on oils because they enjoyed putting oils on themselves. And this existed, what? Yeah, chveisnish, all the fancy words. So this existed b'zman HaShulchan Aruch. So many Svarim write, and it's not wrong prior to 10 years ago. Nowadays it doesn't exist. No one puts on oils for no purpose, and therefore it's forbidden. However, the world we live in definitely will say women. Definitely women. There are women in the world that certainly put on creams and oils. Obviously, you have to quantify what we're talking about. Always. And it's not only, like you said, that it's to guard myself. No, it's because they enjoy the feel, they enjoy the smell, they enjoy the whole thing, whatever it is. If that were to be true, now we can have a Meir take a heter. So if, for example, people use intense moisture hand cream, actually looking at what it says over here, does it say? Helps replenish dry here. Here it looks like it's actually for that. But let's say, who cares what the bottle writes? That's why we said, the gold bonded green and the orange bottle. It's not of art what they sell it for. If let's say people use this all the time. Why? And what does it mean, people? It means the hamoinam. It means it's a normal thing. Just like chicken soup is normal. Just like having coffee is normal. Not only when I need the caffeine. The coffee was good. Yeah, but Coke. So the answer is, if people use it indiscriminately, then it would have the heter of Michael Briim. Is it subjective men and women? Big shayla is subjective where you live. You go to California, you're going to get different stats than you go to Bnei Brak. Obviously, I think everyone can figure that one out. But if that is true, and I do think, and this to conclude, I do think it definitely exists in the world that we live in. Not only females, even males that put on creams and lotions and oils, straight. Okay, is it what? People doesn't mean a miyut. It means it's a normal dikazach. It's normal. If it was just woman, it would only apply to woman. Then there would be a heter for woman. Michael Briim Pashas. It's a big machlekes. Is it just goyim and yidden? These are all big machlekesim. These are all machlekesim in Kol Tarakula. We have machlekesim in Lo Yilbash. We have this machlekesim all over how we do. But Lamaisa, the pashtus is, could be that nowadays we are holding in a place that something like a simple hand cream is something that people use indiscriminately, and therefore it would get you out of the refuah issue. But when it comes to the mimareach, the heter would only be to use that teeniest little bit that gets absorbed. But the chiddush is you'd even have a heter if your hands are chapped. Because once it's a Michael Briim, there's no Issa Refuah. Even though you're doing it, it's like you're taking the chicken soup and you have the flu. L'chayra, that's where the stats are holding nowadays. I think Rav Simcha Bunim Cohen in the book, he he's meramiz to this nekuda. He says that if I didn't get a chance to check it, I think he says, and if the world comes to, I think we're there, I'm pretty sure. Then l'chayr. But again, I say l'chayr because it is a detail that it might depend on an oil and a lotion, and there are millions of different types. Doesn't mean you could go get whatever. And with that is hand lotions on Shabbos.